Welcome to OreoOlive.com. You know, Oreo and olives don't mix, but the abstract thought of putting those two words together has enlightened me to create a channel to discuss various topics. So on today's topic, we're going to be talking about this news clip that came out, and it was talking about how McDonald's has begun to lock its doors to keep out individuals who present a risk in crime-ridden areas. And so when I began to look at this, I know that a lot of McDonald's are in low-income neighborhoods. And you will see them, of course, right out the interstate when you're traveling and driving. But however, you know, we have restaurants in low-income neighborhoods. There is a higher risk of crime being in those particular areas. So I began to wonder, there's got to be some more information around this. So I began to look at, in the last 6 months, how many incidents have happened with McDonald's specifically, and notable ones that have been published online. Looks like from June to December of 2025, whatever time that you're watching this video, they had one in East Hollywood that began in East Hollywood, California in September. And that one escalated actually into a shooting, resulting in one person and two people being shot and one fatality. Polk County, Florida, in October 2025. And that one was an McDonald's employee accused of shooting at two customers who was arguing over about wait time. You got Vienna, Virginia in September of 2025. That one had two minor injuries to two police officers. You have South Ulysses, Ohio, turned into a fight in the lobby. And looks like it was prompted restaurant. Actually, it was a fight. Some teenage girls broke out behind the counter, and of course, a lobby began to close, of course, itself. And then New Haven, Connecticut, in November 2025, and that one had 10 to 15 people causing a disturbance and fighting inside the McDonald's. And then there was two more. One in Shreveport, Louisiana, in November of 2025. That one specifically was McDonald's requiring police officer intervention. There was multiple brawls that were reported there. And last but not least, another notable one was in Fayetteville, North Carolina in September 2025, which was an incident in the drive-thru involved an employee reportedly throwing a broom at a customer, leading to a physical altercation caught on the video. But you will see this online as you look through social media, because people normally post these videos. But it goes deeper than that. And I began to ask myself, there's got to be some statistical data around how the McDonald's are placed and how fast food restaurants are placed in communities, especially in the hood, which you will always hear the term low income communities, but basically in the hood. And when you're looking at this, the data specifically came from the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. And in that specifically, the question was asked, do minority or poor neighborhoods, basically do black or poor neighborhoods, have a higher access to fast food restaurants in the United States of America? And we can definitely overwhelmingly say yes when it comes to that specifically. Well, here is the information to back it up so that you can actually see it. The disproportionate access to unhealthy foods in poor neighborhoods or black neighborhoods, more than likely if it's going to be a minority, it's going to be African American neighborhoods, may be the primary determinant of obesity disparity. So where you got fast food, you're going to have a influx of overweight people, of course, is going to be associated with that. But they measured by Census Block Group, or CBG, percent of black and poverty. And what they found out was really, really interesting, you all. They measured the average driving distance from a block group, and that block group is specifically focused on black or African American and poverty. That's what they're calling the sample size group. And that CBG is what I'm going to call it here, according to the information, the methods that they used. But it was basically a weighted centroid to 5 closest top 10 fast food chains, and the CBG percentage or percent of black and percent below poverty line. And what they found among the 209,091 CBGs analyzed, 95.1% of all U.S. CBGs in the whole United States, that they found that fast food access controlling for the population and density and percent poverty, there was the average distance to a fast food restaurant from someone's house to a fast food restaurant in the area was on an average of 3.56 miles. So that means that 95% in the CBG areas with the highest versus lowest quarter of percentage of black residents or African American residents, poverty was not independently associated with the fast food access, but the relationship between fast food access and race was stronger in the CBG area. And I'm going to put this in the description as well, so definitely look in the comments. You'll be able to see it there. But this was extremely high, and the conclusion that they had with that is predominantly African American black neighborhoods had higher access to fast food than healthy foods, and they had a higher access to fast food, while poverty was not an independent predicator of fast food access. And so what they began to see is when you have restaurants and areas in low income neighborhoods or in black neighborhoods, they're looking at the statistical data and seeing that there are going to be a higher risk and chance of crime being in those particular restaurants. Because when you look at, no matter where you go in the U.S., a lot and many of your restaurants are going to fall in these particular type of areas that are here. And so what McDonald's is doing is not going to be too far-fetched for other restaurants to basically do or start doing if they continue to have people fighting in the restaurants. And how we know that this is happening is because of it being posted live on social media, your TikToks, your Instagrams, and all that. And then there's going to be some rules, of course, that's going to follow behind this to keep these restaurants safe, because you have to look at it. If the restaurants are not safe, and the average restaurant is going to be, as I said, about 3.25 miles from the 3.56 miles being the closest fast food restaurant to someone's house, they may not have the ability to go to restaurants that's going to be on the outskirts of town. And so the restaurants are going to have to find a way to make them safe so that the residents within the communities, if they choose to still go, will still absolutely be safe when they go and dine. So definitely let me know in the comments below what you all think. But it is a very interesting story, an interesting piece to know. And I would never have not known this if this never would have came out, because I never too much looked into it. But that's so interesting. Less than 4 miles from the CBG's fast food restaurants. So like, listen, subscribe to the channel, OreoOlive.com. Look forward to bringing more content to you all soon.